Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Hart, and thought I would post a couple of general comments to you. We're about in the middle of the sixth week of the course, and we may be hitting a little bit of the wall, which is pretty typical in this course. The good news is that it gets better and easier as we move towards the end of the course. So I want to encourage all of you to stick with it. Couple of comments. So, first of all, I don't know if you saw the news today, but we had another small earthquake here in Ecuador. Registered about a 6.8 on the Richter scale. Was quite a bit smoother, if you will, and less violent than the one that we had in mid-April. Came at about just a few minutes short of 3 o'clock this morning. I felt it in my apartment in my community called Cumbaya, just east of Quito. I understand the epicenter was in Esmeraldas, which is another community on the coast. So the coast has been really hit pretty hard recently. So anyway, we're all okay, and it's an interesting time in Ecuador. Now, as far as your design plan assignment is concerned, U05A1, I know some of you are probably looking at this and saying, oh, wow, what does this guy want? You know, he keeps sending this stuff back, he keeps asking me for revisions, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, first, a couple of things. One is that I look at these assignments as though I were your boss. I've been a training manager. I've been working in the field for, 35 years. I've been a training manager, been a consultant, been on your end of the stick, so to speak, and had to develop proposals and so on. And so I'm looking at these proposals through the eyes of if I were your boss, or, and perhaps even better, is I'm looking at your proposals through the eyes of a business leader of some kind, like a CEO, okay? So my experience is that CEOs come from the world of finance, they come from the world of marketing, from operations, from sales. They understand numbers. They don't understand an awful lot about training and performance improvement, but they sure understand numbers. And so this is why I've been really picky about things like identifying quantifiable performance gaps. Or I've been picky about, well, how do you know that this is a root cause? That's not so much a quantifiable thing, but if I were a business leader and you presented some information to me about what you thought was the root cause of some performance problems, I'd want to see some facts about that. I wouldn't probably take that just on face value. Same thing, getting back to the numbers thing about intervention goals and objectives and your measurable learning objectives as well. One of the things that I would be looking at if I were a CEO and came from a finance background is, well, how much of an improvement are we going to see? Is it going to be worth the investment that we're going to be making in this intervention? So that's the approach that I'm taking. Now, folks, you're not going to be chasing your tails on this draft of U05A1 forever. Okay, I'm just going to reassure you, I'm not going to ask for 4, 5, 6 drafts of this. Okay, at the most, I might ask for a third draft. All right, but there will come a point where we have to move on, and it'll just be the grade that you get. Now, U05A1 is going to be consolidated into all the other assignments that are going to be coming along later in the course, and it's all going to be wrapped together into the final project. So if you look at the list, for instance, of required components for the final project, they're all particularly at the beginning in the performance analysis phase of the final project, it's going to be UO5A1 and UO2A1. Okay, the design is going to come from some learning theory that you may have written about in UO3A1, or you may decide that you like somebody else's theory that where they posted their draft of that paper in UO3A1, or maybe you even choose a completely different theory that you didn't post about, and that's perfectly fine. You're not limited to just the theories that I listed in UO3A1. The reason that I limit the list in UO3A1 is that I want to make that assignment manageable for you so that you're not spending all of your time looking around for theories. You're really spending a little bit of time selecting a theory, but then you're spending most of your time actually writing about the theorist and what their ideas are. Okay? So that's how everything's going to work. You're going to get actually another chance to draft your performance analysis material in the final project description, which will be U10A1. But my expectation is that you're going to have all of your stuff together by then, and there really isn't going to be very much that you're going to have to redraft about the performance analysis part of your project. Okay? So that's one issue. Another one is this whole issue about, is e-learning really an effective method of delivering knowledge and skill training to people in the business world? And you posted some ideas about this in UO5D2, the discussion about e-learning. And I'm going to keep that discussion open for a while because some of you may have some more ideas about this, and I may have posted some questions to you. I really encourage you to look at all of the posts of your peers and see what everybody else felt about this. Now, as I posted, I think, to Jessica just a few minutes ago, many organizations all over the world are flocking to using e-learning. They see it as a cheap alternative to making people travel all over the world to do training. And that's certainly the case. You know, it certainly looks really attractive. People can sit at their computers. Many times they can do this training at their leisure, and the organization gets to check that box. And a lot of times that's what e-learning has boiled down to, is simply checking a box, usually to satisfy some regulators someplace. So like, for instance, here at Capella, I have to go through, I think about 3 or 4 hours total of e-learning that covers things like, for instance, I have to know about some of the ins and outs of stock ownership because I'm an employee of the company and I used to own some stock in Capella. And so I have to know what conflicts of interest are and that sort of thing. I have to know about FERPA, you know, the law that regulates how much information I need to get or can get about you, and how much information you can get about your grades and so forth, and how much information other people can get about you. So I have to take about 3 or 4 hours at least of regulatory-driven training, and Capella can check the box and turn around and say to federal regulators, and Capella is a highly regulated business because we collect so much federal student loan money, so it's highly regulated, and so they can turn around and report to the federal regulators that Dr. Paul Hart took all this training, and so therefore he has been declared competent in these areas. So I would ask for some skepticism from you on that, because some of you have also gone through similar kinds of training, and I would ask you, do you really think that you're more competent in some of those areas, or have you just been able to check a box? But Capella didn't have to make me travel to Minneapolis to go through that training, so they saved thousands of dollars in travel money. But the question is my performance actually better after going through that e-learning experience? Is my performance even the same? And so if it's the same performance, but the organization was able to save money by not making me travel up to the Twin Cities, then that would make it have a favorable return on investment, even if my performance was the same. My skeptical nature tells me that it's very possible that some people's performance might actually be worse after distance learning or after e-learning. So there are some questions for you to think about, okay? And those are some of the things that you might want to do some further thinking about, and maybe even post a few other ideas in UO5D2. As I said, I'm going to keep that open, and if you want to post some more ideas about those questions, feel free to do that. So, it's been great talking to you. I'm looking forward to the last half of the course. If any of you have any concerns right now, being halfway into the course, feel free to get in contact with me, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. And I'm looking forward to seeing some great work from you in the remainder of the course. Bye now.